Promotional assets. Promotional assets. What is a promotional asset?
It can be content that you can use in your sales funnel.
Okay, could be content that you use in your sales funnel. Fair enough.
It could be a physical product.
Okay, could be a physical product. All right. So essentially, a promotional asset is any asset as defined by whether it be a physical product and or service that you're going to sell to try to convert into money. It could be blog articles, it could be videos, it could be courses, it could be white papers, it could be essentially anything that you have that you know specifically, I need to promote this, right? So, for our purposes, when we're talking about email marketing and those kind of things, when we're looking at promotional assets, remember, we've already talked about RGA versus non-RGA, right? Revenue generating activities versus non-revenue generating activities. In this case, what we're looking at as an RGA is revenue generating assets, right? Versus non-revenue generating assets, right? And so ideally here we have already determined these are the months out of the year that are the low months. So we're going to focus on our non-RGAs during low months. We want to focus on our RGAs during our moderate and high months. So we want to begin to look at what in that promotion model, what overall categories we want to focus on for each individual month. Now, once we've focused on that, we need to break it down into our promotional assets, and that's why we created promotional asset sheets, right? A promotional asset sheet, the purpose of that sheet is to help us define where we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to focus on, so on and so forth. So that leads me to the question. If you have a product in your business, do you always want to promote it? Why or why not?
Not always. You would want to promote it certainly during your high sales volume months.
Okay.
And because it is a revenue generating, I'm going to say revenue generating asset in this case. It's something that can be sold. So you focus on that during your traditional high sales months, and you promote it a lot less during your low sales months.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So he's saying all assets, you promote all of your assets during high sales months and your non-revenue assets during your low sales months and so on and so forth. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
Maybe add medium months too.
Okay.
Medium and high.
Okay. What about you guys? Do you?
Ideally, you want to promote, but I think Mark just answered most of it. You want to get the high, not the low for RGS.
Okay. So the question was, let's go back to the original question. The question was, you have assets that you can promote. Do you want to promote all your assets?
Maybe if it's performing well, you don't really need to promote that one, but maybe some that are underperforming.
Or vice versa. You know, the ones that are performing well, you want to promote them more because they're already performing well, so you can get better out of them. The ones that are not performing well, maybe a down phase in the cycle, and no matter what you do, you may not get them to be performing, right? But here's my point. Not all assets need to be promoted.
I'm trying to remember, we hit on this recently, and I don't recall examples of those, but there are things for internal use, maybe processes and procedures.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what examples we use.
Okay, so think about it this way. You go to Walmart, you go do your grocery shopping, you go do your, get whatever you need to get. You get up to the register. What do you see at the register?
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah, candy. Yeah, impulse items, right? So it's impulse buys. But so there's actually two reasons why that stuff is there. One is impulse buys, but two is essentially profit margin, right? So those items are impulse buys, but they also tend to have a much lower profit margin. Those are called add-on purchases, right? So as an add-on purchase, what the purpose of that is the purpose is to increase the overall per transaction value, but realistically, for a standalone transaction, doesn't provide any value, right? Think about it. You go buy a candy bar at Walmart. How much is a candy bar at Walmart? $1? Yeah. I think you can get the small ones are like 89 cents, something like that. So let's say that they have a 40% profit margin, initial profit margin on that, right? Okay. So 89 cents and 40% margin. Okay. So that candy bar cost them how much?
89 cents. Let's say 50 cents.
It's going to be roughly 50 cents. So you got 54-cent cost. Okay? Now, think about it this way. If I go to Walmart and all I want is a candy bar, and I go up there and I buy the candy bar, right? So they got a 54-cent cost. That means they're making 35 cents gross profit, right? Okay. Now, you swap your debit card or credit card to purchase that candy bar. Credit card fees go along with that. Okay. A lot of credit card processors, especially for us general retailers, charge you a percentage and then a per transaction, right? So the percentage will fluctuate, right? So it may be if you're doing a lot of sales, you may pay 1%, 1.5%. If you're doing online like PayPal, those kind of things, you may pay 2.9%, right? And then there's that plus 30 cents per transaction. Right? It's why you go to a lot of gas stations, they'll tell you, well, it's minimum $5 to use a card, right? Because what they figured out is anything that you purchase less than $5 with a card, it actually costs them money to sell it to you. They don't make anything on it, right? So that 30 cent per transaction alone drops that to a nickel, plus your percentage, right? So even if it's 1%, right? So 1% is going to be a penny out of that. So that drops it down to 4 cents. That is actually gross, right? Because transaction costs are a direct cost. That doesn't count paying the person who swapped it, paying for the bag that they stuck it in, right? Or any of the other overhead expenses. So it makes no sense whatsoever, in other words, for Walmart to advertise those candy bars. It makes no sense. Do they sell the candy bars? Yes. Does it make sense for them to promote the candy bars? Not at all. Because the profit margin isn't high enough, right? But if you're buying something else and that 30 cents gets amortized into all of the stuff that you purchase, right? Then now what are they doing? They're just increasing the profit per transaction. Make sense? So add-on items, those kind of things increase profit per transaction. So it's something we have to think about when we look at our promotional planning, when we look at our email marketing and those kind of things. Just because someone offers a product or service doesn't necessarily mean that product or service needs to be promoted. Okay? It may be better, or directly promoted, let me say. It may be better offering it as add-ons. It may be better offering it as upsells, cross-sells, those kind of things. Something to increase a transaction versus actively going after it. What might be another situation besides something like that? What might be another situation in which you would not necessarily want to promote a product?
Well, in our case, there may be situations where perhaps the fulfillment would, I'm just going out on a limb, where the fulfillment may cost more, so it doesn't make sense for that same reason in your example of the candy bar to make sense to promote it.
Okay.
Yet, in combination with another package or another system might very well make sense.
Okay. So fulfillment may cost more than the profit on that particular item. Fair enough. So if we think about it, one of the first things that we want to look at with a promotion is timing of the promotion, right? If historically sales for a particular product or service have been very bad at this particular point, we don't necessarily want to promote it then, because there are likely reasons why sales have been bad at a particular point, right? You're not calling the HVAC company in January to come fix your air conditioner, right? If you are, you've got a whole different set of problems. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I guess it could be menopause or pregnant. You know, remember when with Jasmine, that was one of those things that when she was pregnant with Jasmine, Jasmine was born in November, right? And so we actually had snow on the ground at that particular point, and this, that, and the other. Windows were open, doors were open, air conditioner was on high. You know, and she was sitting on the couch like this with shorts and a t-shirt on, just die. Me and Whitley over here in coats and 2 pairs of pants and blankets and like this, sitting in the living room floor, huddled up together, trying to survive. So, yeah. But that's atypical, right? It's not typical. So when we think about that kind of stuff, again, there are loads of reasons why a particular product or service wouldn't be good to promote during a particular time. You know, the secondary reason why you may not want to actively promote a product or service, it may be the profit margins, right? If the profit margin is not high enough, on that, on average, you need to be able to determine ROIs, right? And so if I've got a product or service, and by the way, it doesn't matter the price of that product or service. That's why on our promotional asset sheet, we want to look at things like profit margins, right? Because you can have items that are high ticket, but have very low margins, right? There are items out there where it may be a $5,000 purchase, but it may have a 1% profit margin, right? And so the question is how many people are going to spend $5,000 on that? What's your cost to acquire that customer? Is there enough margin in that to be able to offset the cost of acquiring the customer, right? And there may not be, okay? If not, then that's not necessarily something that we want to actively promote. So when we're looking at assets to be able to promote, what's one of the first things we want to look at? High profit margin items. So our ideal scenario would be a high profit margin item that is also something that is easy to sell, right? So when we're looking at our promotional asset sheets, obviously we want to look at listing out the product or service. Right? We want to look at what's the price, but we also want to look at what's the margin. Right? So when we're filling this thing out, whether we're doing it for ourselves or whether we're doing it for a client or whatever, I need to be able to know that, right? Some things we offer have an 80% margin. Some things we offer may have an 80% margin, but are kind of hard to sell, right? Some things we offer have an 80% margin, but are very easy to sell. Some things we offer have a 40% margin, but are higher ticket, and they may be a little more difficult to sell, but the cost to acquire a customer, right? The cost to acquire a customer, the per customer cost, may be of value. I'll give you an example. If I've got something that costs $3,000 a month, and our direct cost is $1,300 a month, right? That leaves how much? $1,700 a month. Okay. Now, in this scenario, it's actually cost us to date. It costs us about $3,200 per customer for customer acquisition. It costs us $3,200 to get a new customer.
So you're saying across the board, your customer acquisition cost is $3,200
For this particular service. It costs us $3,200 to get one new customer as of right now. Is it?
Unless it's the doorway to cross-sell.
Okay. But remember, this is a $3,200 one-time cost to acquire the customer. Our profit margin is $1,700 a month. So end of month two, we're profitable.
I was thinking one.
So essentially, you got to eat it. You're eating it for the first 2 months,
Sure.
right?
I was thinking I didn't get the monthly on the 17th.
Yeah. So even if a person is a customer for a year, right? That's $19,400, right?
So, and that's what I was thinking, you've also got to factor in the customer lifetime value.
Absolutely.
Where do you take the hit? I'll say hit acquisition cost, but I was thinking.
You always take the initial hit will always come in acquisition cost, because it is always easier to sell to someone who has bought previously than it is to sell to someone who's never bought from you before, right? It's the relationship trust factor, right? So it will always cost more to acquire a new customer than it will to retain existing customers. So the question is do we want to promote that?
Yes.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
All day, every day. Because of our knowns, right?
And so with an existing customer, going back to one of our earlier considerations, that is the cost of customer acquisition, it seems that some of these otherwise non-promotional items, or the assets that we wouldn't normally promote, might be just simply segmented or targeted to existing customers.
Absolutely. So the point therein lies in some things you won't promote to non-customers, but you may promote it to customers, right? I mean, think about it. So we've got a client that does high-end audio video, right? And their average contract is $40,000 to $100,000 plus, okay? And so generally they'll kind of hit a minimum around $40,000. They prefer the 100,000 plus, and they've done some million plus contracts, right? So as part of the service that they offer, there's, the system that they set up, they have remote controls, right? They go with these systems. Now, each remote control is about $600, okay? They come out with the company that manufactures these things has an upgraded remote control yearly, kind of like the iPhone, right? Keep coming up with these things. So it's about $600, but the company in and of itself doesn't really make all that much money. They make $50-$60 on one of these remote controls. So does it make sense to advertise to non-customers this remote control? It does not, because your acquisition cost on something like that initial acquisition cost would be a lot higher. Not unless you had a degree of certainty saying that this person is going to continue to buy an updated remote control every single year. But, it's kind of like phones. You may buy the new phone that comes out, but you may say, oh crap, remember how much money I spent on that phone? Well, maybe 4 or 5 years before you buy another one. All right? The percentage of people that are going to buy a new phone every single year just because the new one came out is very small. Okay, so that being said, it doesn't make sense to promote that to them, but it does make sense to actively promote that to existing customers, right? So again, it's that whole concept of that. So we have to look at our product service, we have to look at price, we have to look at profit margin. The next thing that we have to look at is, where does the transaction occur? Where does it occur?
Like in-house or online?
Right. So is the transaction online? Is the transaction over the phone? Or is it the transaction in person? Some products and services will never be sold online. It's just not how they're bought, right? Consulting services, as an example. Consulting service, it would be, even though you can give people the opportunity, it is a very, very rare thing for someone to ever purchase a consulting service online, right? Those typically are done over the phone or in person. Okay? Very high ticket items are often not purchased online, right? Those things tend to be done over the phone or in person.
I'm not going to see many online diamond sales.
Absolutely. So, and oftentimes if you do, it's either the low quality, low price type stuff, or with diamonds and those kind of things, you may be able to buy uncut type things that, again, you're eating a portion of the cost of acquisition in that, because the nature of the beast is that that person's going to have to take it to somebody to cut it and clean it, right? So where does the transaction occur? Why is this important for us to know?
How to market it, and you look at profit margin.
Okay, how to market and look at profit margin. All right, so and there's also reasonable expectation, right, in dealing with clients. So one of the things that I have to explain to people from time to time is, look, marketing is about getting people interested in your products and services. It's about finding the people who may be interested in your products and services and bringing them to you so they can see your products and services. I cannot pull out a gun and hold it to someone's head and force them to make a purchase. Okay? That's not how this kind of stuff works. So we can get them in the door, but it's your job to close the deal, right? And so you quite often get people that don't understand that. It's like, well, how many new sales am I going to get? I need to know how many new cars I'm going to sell from this marketing effort that you guys are doing. None is the answer. You will sell 0 new cars directly from our marketing effort. Why? Because people don't buy cars online. They buy cars from car salespeople, right? We can drive them to you, but if your salespeople are junk and they cannot close a deal, that is not our fault. This is why guaranteeing things like ROIs is a shady thing. Okay? Anytime in marketing, and it's something that I've said for years, anytime in marketing you have someone that guarantees you a specific ROI, you better turn and run. Okay? Because they're either going to take your money and they're going to run with it, and the guarantee is useless, right? Or they're going to do some things that's going to eventually get you in some serious trouble. There are a number of law firms right now that are under investigation, okay? Are under investigation because they were purchasing leads from a lead gen service, right? And when they were buying these leads from this lead gen service, they thought, well, we're just buying the leads. The problem is that the activities of the lead generation service, right, affect the attorneys, because there are things for lawyers that they can and cannot do in their advertising and marketing. If they are buying leads from someone that is doing those things, essentially they are advertising in those methods. That's the way the legal system is looking at it right now. Okay? And so there have already been a number of fines, large fines handed out for misrepresentative advertising practices. Right? So, again, but these people guarantee, I guarantee you I can get you 5 leads a week. I guarantee you this. I guarantee you that. Got to be careful of that kind of mess. Okay? Matter of fact, something that Becca and I were talking about, because somebody actually asked her the other day about that. Well, can you guarantee? Somebody says it's $5,000 a month. I can guarantee you I can guarantee you a 15% ROI, right? And it'll take us a couple of months to get up and rolling, but guarantee you a 15% ROI. Okay, great. So first month you pay $5,000. You don't think anything about it. Second month you pay $5,000. You don't think anything about it. It's going to take a couple of months to get up and rolling, right? Third month you pay $5,000. You didn't really think a heck of a lot about it, but it's one of those things. All right, it's time to get started. Fourth month rolls around, you get nothing out of it. Let's shoot an email and say, hey, what's up? What's going on? I'm not seeing any activity. I'm not seeing anything going on. Not a problem. We're working on stuff. Moving on. Right? Fifth month rolls around. Now you're starting to get a little nervous. Wait a minute. I've been paying for this thing for 5 months. I'm not seeing any kind of activity going on. I'm not seeing any kind of mess. What's happening? Right? Right? Now you get on the phone and they calm you down a little bit on the phone. Right? 6 month rolls around. You're like, screw this. I'm done. Right? That's $30,000. You spent $30,000. They collected $30,000 and didn't have to do squat for it. But it made you comfortable because of the guarantees. Right? Got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Right?
The other thing is people want results now. Panic because of COVID. They want it now. And you kind of have to let them know it's going to take time to build it.
Marketing is a crock pot. It's not a microwave. The world is a crock pot. It's not a microwave. A lot of the junk that we have going on today in the world, it's not instantaneous. It's been a while coming, right? So, yes, absolutely. You can see instantaneous results. The question is what's the result that you're seeing, right? That's also a difference in understanding what do I measure, what do I track, right? What am I looking at? What's going to lead me to where I need to be, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm not seeing any movement, then that's a problem. Kind of goes back to one of the clients that we have with the SEO stuff, right? He was rocking and rolling, thinking everything was fine, but he was a little bit frustrated. And I get him on, I do a Zoom and do a screen share with him and show him. Let's just look. Let's just take a look. You've been paying these people for how long? Oh, you've been paying them a year. Okay, great. So this is step one, but step one's not been done. This is step two. Step two's not been done. Step three. Step three's not been done. What have these people been doing? Apparently, I don't know. I mean, let's look it up. But these people guaranteed you results. Right? Got to be careful of that kind of stuff. But so a large part of this also is something that we have to deal with in marketing too, right? So with clients, you have to be able to overcome issues that your competitors cause, right? That may also be a determinant in where transaction will occur. Have you got a product or services where shady competitors have essentially destroyed the market? Okay, if shady competitors have essentially destroyed the market, your chances of being able to sell certain things online go down, right? Even though there may be the capacity to sell it online, right? You may not have the capability to sell it online because of market perceptions, right? So these are things that we have to judge when we're looking at promotional assets. How are we going to offer this thing? Is it online? Is it over the phone? Is it in person? And then how are we going to drive people to that next step, right? Because that's a step. If it's an online purchase, we want them to click buy now, right? If it's an over the phone purchase, we want them to schedule an appointment. If it's an in-person purchase, we want to drive traffic to the door, right? So knowing that's going to be important. Ease of sale. Why do we want to know ease of sale?
It helps determine back to what we just said. Ease of sale is going to let you know as far as when to market, how to market, and also margins.
Oh, absolutely. And so looking at margins, looking at price, looking at where the transaction occurs, looking at ease of sale, all of this is a piece of the puzzle. Some things, like the candy bar or the Coke at Walmart, that's an easy sale. It doesn't offer enough enough transaction value to look at it as a promotion. But if I've got something that I'm looking at, if I've got two products side by side that have similar margins, similar transaction locations, right? But I'm looking at one ease of sale maybe a 9, the other one maybe a 2, where am I going to want to put more of my efforts?
Ease of sale 9.
Ease of sale 9, right? So that being said, it boils down to that. What happens when you have 30 different products or services that you offer, right? If you have 30 different products or services that you offer, you have 12 months. You're going to focus each month on a prioritization, right? But you have your non-RGA months. So let's say you got 3 non-RGA months. That's 9. What we're talking about is narrowing down the products and services, the promotional assets, into which 9 are you going to choose? Right? Which 9 are we going to use? What are the most advantageous? What's the best opportunities here? Right? So we want to know ease of sale. We also want to know how long is a typical sales cycle. Why? You'll know start-stop marketing and campaigns. That's part of it. The other part of it is also in setting expectations. So something Becca said a few minutes ago was that some people have unreasonable expectations of I want results now. They're flipping out and this and the other. I need results now. But the thing is if you go to a networking meeting and you meet someone and you know that your average sales cycle is 5 months, to get them, once you've met somebody in person, you develop that interrelationship in person, and it still takes 5 months to get that from that to a signed contract or a signed sales agreement, whatever it may be, right? Then there should be an expectation of it being a little longer online, okay? Right? Because you don't have the personal contact. So it takes longer. When you're not face-to-face with someone, it takes longer to develop that initial relationship, right? So it's that expectation of if you're face-to-face and it takes 5 months to get a sale on this particular product or service, it's going to take at least that online as a bare minimum. It'll take at least that online, right? Because it doesn't account the online. You also have to account for all of the awareness. They have to become aware of who you are. They have to get engaged with who you are. They have to subscribe or buy into your thought process. In other words, you have to go through the phases of relationship before you can get to that 5-month portion of the process. You'd be surprised at how many people out there want, oh, I need leads now. I need sales now. I need this kind of stuff now. Well, how long does it normally take you to do it on your own? Oh, I mean, I get 2 or 3 a year. Let's be reasonable in our expectations here. All right? How long is the typical sales cycle? That also gives us a good indicator of how we're going to do what we need to do, right? You don't want to do on something that's going to require a month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 10 months for a sales cycle. That may not be an ideal product or service for flash sales, for example. You know, things that require a longer purchase may not be ideal for those whole instant gratification, right? Instant purchase decisions. Okay? Choose something else for that. All right. We also want to ask with this stuff, we want to look at, have we previously sold this with email? Why do we want to know that?
To help your campaign structure.
Yeah. Because if you sold it with using email in the past, and we're talking email marketing here, if you sold it using email in the past, I want to know what the results were. What did you do? What were the results? Right? So if you sold it using email in the past and you actually got a pretty good result, then what do I want to do? I want to optimize what you did. Right? I may not necessarily need to reinvent that wheel from scratch. I just want to take what you did and make it better. Right? Because you got an ROI on it before. So, for example, one of our newest clients did an email marketing campaign. The email marketing campaign cost him $8,000? $6,800 first go around. And he made $88,000. So he did $88,000 in sales on this. Now granted, there's, he's selling PPE. So kind of easy sell to begin with, right? The question would be, okay, if the first go around $6,800 to do $88,000 in sales, the second go around was $6,800 to do $40-something thousand in sales. Is that right? $48,000 in sales. So a $40,000 drop in sales from one to the next, and that's it failed miserably thought process in his mind because he had that expectation from the first one. Well, every time I do this, I'm going to do $88,000. Every time I do this, again, that doesn't take into account these cycles that we've talked about, right? Especially with PPE, because that's hugely fear-based, right? For what he was marketing to anyway. And so, with that being said, the question is what did they do, right? What were the emails? If we could get copies of those emails and we knew what people it was being sent out to, then we could look at, okay, what was the difference between the first one and the second one? Was it exactly the same email, just sent at different times?
Did it go to the same market?
Right. Did he go to the same market? Was it to the same people? Right? So, there's the thought process right there. So if you've done it in the past, was it successful? Was it not successful? If it was not successful at all, we still want to know that. Why?
So we know what not to do.
So you know what not to do. It didn't. I tried this way and it didn't work. Okay, that shaves off one of those Thomas Edison 10,000 tries, right? So he got 99.99 left.
Don't do that again.
Yeah, let's not do this again. It didn't work, right? And so we want to know all the details about that kind of stuff. Then one of the last questions we want to ask, is it currently available to promote? Is it currently available to promote? Now, why would we want to ask a question like that?
You don't want to get a bunch of sales commitments to find out that your product's on back order and you can't deliver.
Yeah. Or to find out that you have been changing the structure of the product ever since you started selling it, and you haven't even got the initial batch from the manufacturer yet, and it's now 6 months later. Right. We have that specific thing. It was a product that came out that was originally being sold in March, and it was supposed to ship in April. And then April rolls around and, we're making some changes to the product, so it's not going to ship until May, and then it's not going to ship until June, and then it's not going to ship until September. Now it's not going to ship until November. You've got sales from March, right? Because they're trying to perfect the product. But you got $100,000 in sales sitting on the books that people are getting ticked off because it's, March, November, 9 months later. That's right. That's right. So, and they don't see this mess, right? They don't see it. No matter how much you tell these people, stop making changes to the product, just get it manufactured. You can do a version 2.0, right? Just get the stinking thing manufactured. Get the sales out there. Start delivering it to people because you're destroying your own reputation, right? So is it currently available to promote? Now, there are lots of other reasons why something would not be currently available to promote, right? What else might be some of those reasons?
It'd be hard to find pumpkins in March and April.
Okay, hard to find pumpkins in March and April if you're a pumpkin patch. Some things are seasonal, absolutely. So it's one of those things that you look at. You may schedule it for later, but it's not currently available to promote. Now, when we're looking at currently available to promote, we're not actually looking at seasonal stuff. Because remember, it goes back to that whole annual calendar. Seasonal things. I know I'm going to start promoting that pumpkin patch end of August, right? I want to start promoting that pumpkin patch end of August, get it promoted a little bit more in September, and then knock it out of the park in October. so you can get everybody under the sun visiting that pumpkin patch, right? So you get a little bit of that hay, and you start thinking about this, and then let's think about this a little bit more, and then you got to get here now because time's limited, dude. I mean, Halloween's coming. Nobody visits a pumpkin patch after Halloween, seriously. I don't know why, because, pumpkins and Thanksgiving go together in my head too, But a fallacy of promoting pumpkin patches, I think, in my own mind. It should not stop at Halloween. It should stop after Thanksgiving. But that being said. Do what?
Isn't pumpkin season over mid-November anyways?
Yeah, it typically is.
So they can't do Thanksgiving?
You could.
No, like your pumpkins are not as healthy.
Depends where you get them from. Because you also have to remember that seasons in the northern hemisphere and seasons in the southern hemisphere are opposite. So, and many of the pumpkins that you buy in pumpkin patches today did not come from that pumpkin patch. In fact, most of them do not come from that pumpkin patch. Most of them are imported. Frustration of pumpkin patches. That's why, matter of fact, I was having a conversation with Whitley. We went to this pumpkin patch this past year, and Whitley was like, "Dad, I don't want to go back there. I do not want to take the kids back there." I said, "Me either." There was activities, there were games, there was fun stuff, there was this, that, and the other. But quite literally, you get on a tractor for the hay ride. You don't even go through any trees or anything like that to get to an actual field. They drive you over to this grassy area. It was not a pumpkin patch. It was a grassy area that still had all the boxes from the imported pumpkins over in the edge over here, where somebody just takes the pumpkins out of the box from Walmart or whatever and walks them and sticks them around in the patch.
I have to say, Old Baker Farm is a centennial farm, and they have the real deal.
I do like Old Baker Farm. We'll have to talk about that. I was there when the dude blew up. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, but I've been there quite a few times. So lots of good places, some not so good places. But depending upon where you get your stuff from, you got to remember seasonality in one spot is not the same as seasonality in another spot, right? We have a global economy. You can get things from wherever. Okay, so just a thought. All right, so the not currently available to promote, right? So if, let's say that it's a product that have stock, right? And it's out of stock, right? It's back ordered. You can't get any more of it. And I'll put it to you this way. I got frustrated. We bought the house we're in right now in May, right? Moved in June. And essentially in June, I was contacting places to see about getting the internet, okay? Well, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere now. And there is no fiber internet. There's no cable internet. You could actually get DSL. That's about the fastest thing that you could get. Or you could buy satellite internet, right? Which all of that's junk. None of that could maintain any of the consumption of my family. And so I got to looking around for other options. And there's this other company that offers, essentially, it's a Wi-Fi hotspot that uses cell towers, but it's actually TCP/IP based, right? So you can get faster speeds. You can get, as long as there's cell towers somewhere close by, and you can get a cell signal, then you can use that internet, and it's faster than your DSLs and that kind of stuff. And it had unlimited data for the price. Sign me up. It's way more expensive than I was paying before, but I don't care, right? Keep my children entertained and out of my hair. Let them watch their videos late at night, do whatever it is that they need to do. And I don't want to hear, "Dad, I can't use my Chromebook for school for doing my homework because we don't have internet anymore," right? So I ordered this stuff. And they said, well, due to a shortage, it's going to take about 30 days for your box to come in. Okay, I can deal with that. Expectation set, right? 30 days. Was $285 for this box. Okay, so ordered it, and then this, that, and the other, and 30 days rolls around, no box. So I go online, ask status of my order. Processing. I'm a little disappointed. So I pick up the phone and I call. Excuse me. When am I gonna get my box? It said it'd be here in 30 days. It's been a little longer than 30 days now. It's been 5 weeks. Right? I still don't have my box. The lady says, I'm so sorry. We've experienced a delay. And it's probably gonna be 60 days before you get the box. Well, dang. Very disappointed now. I'm actually more disappointed because they didn't bother to send me an email or something telling me that up front. That was where my key disappointment was. Not so much in the delay of getting the box, because we've got hotspot on our phones, so we still technically had internet at the house. But it was the lack of communication, right? 60 days rolls around, no box. 90 days rolls around, no box. I'm miffed, right? There's a word you hadn't heard in a while, isn't it? I'm miffed. Yeah, so, yes. So, that being said, I'm extremely frustrated. So I call again. This is actually the third time I call, right? I call again. I'm less pleasant, right? It's to the tune of, what the heck, man? Why have I ordered something months ago and still not received my order? The lady proceeds to explain to me, because of the whole COVID mess and all of this stuff, there's a shortage of parts that the manufacturer needs to be able to actually manufacture these boxes. And so the manufacturer cannot get the parts that they need to be able to manufacture the boxes that we need. And essentially, by the way, this is the only thing they do in their business. This is the only thing that business does. Okay? That's it. So they're kind of flipping out too, because they need to make more sales and get more customers, but they can pre-order, right, or back order, whatever you want to call it. They can do that, but they can't put anyone on. Now, they're not making a heck of a lot of money off the boxes. They're making money off the monthly service. But until somebody gets the box, you pay no monthly service. Oops. Right?
So they obviously sell the boxes, but you said that's the only thing they do. They obviously don't follow up with their orders.
Yeah. So the key here is that it took 4 months. It took 4 months for us to actually get the box. And service has been great, by the way, since we got the box. Service has been great. Have no problems with that whatsoever. My biggest problem is communication, right?
No discounts and no free
No.
first month. Sorry for the inconvenience.
And I think I would be okay with not giving me any freebies as long as you communicate clearly, and I can understand the reason why. If you're telling me that the person who manufactures these things cannot get the parts that they need because of a global pandemic and it's going to take a little longer than we expected, I can be okay with that. I can rationalize that and be okay. It's not your fault. I don't necessarily need something free from you if you communicate with me. You know what I'm saying?
Were they doing it for those 90 days after they missed their first 30-day benchmark?
I mean, I didn't pay a bill.
Yeah.
So, you don't actually start paying a bill until you activate the service, activate the box, right? So I just paid for a box now, but with zero communication whatsoever, I'm sitting here wondering, right? This is why we asked the question, is this currently available to promote? Because if I were marketing for that particular company and they can't get boxes, there's no way in the world I'm going to actively promote the sales of this thing. No way. What I'm going to actively promote is the communication surrounding what the issues are to make sure that people are not upset and canceling orders, right? Because again, that affects your long-term revenue. Make sense? So there are a lot of reasons why things are not currently available to promote. Seasonality is not one of those, for at least in this box. Right. So it's one of those things that we want to look at. Is there a physical reason why we should not or cannot actively promote this product or service at the moment, right? It's sold out. It's been sold out for 6 months. It's on back order, and we don't have any concept of when we'll get more of these or be able to get more of these.
So it just occurred to me with the service, you actually had to actively look for this solution to your internet problem. Have you seen any ads running anywhere? Okay. that will be rubbing salt in the wound.
Yep.
Big way.
Yes, and in fact, so it was the client that I mentioned earlier that does the high-end audio video stuff is the one that told me about it. We were having a conversation, and I told him the situation, and then he's the one that told me to get with them because they have a lot of clients that own multiple homes, lake homes and mountain homes and that kind of stuff, and that's a company that they use to get service, right, in these remote areas, right, that don't offer traditional service. Cool, right? Referral from a client. What better referral can you get? No, and again, I'm happy with the service now. I'm unhappy with the communication. And I look at that and I'm like, well, dude, why are you? I mean, right now I can see why they're not actively running ads if they're still struggling to get more of these boxes, right? But I mean, if you're not struggling to get one of these boxes, I mean, to me, I would be doing ads all day long, awareness ads all day long, geolocation awareness ads, right? Look at any area that's difficult to get regular or high-speed internet and say, we're going to target everybody that lives in these areas. Boom, 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 boom. You know, and pick them up left and right. Because it's just a matter of time at that particular point where they're generating enough, they have the capacity then to start building their own towers, right? That's how places like T-Mobile got started, right?
And just to notice, it would be wise for them to find alternate sourcing for the components.
If possible. If possible. So you have to remember when you look at alternate sourcing, some things you're not going to find an alternate source for, unfortunately, right?
Like one of the particular brokers that we sell, people will call me and I'll ask them, I said, did you visit our website? And they'll say, yes, that's how I found it. Cool, back in my mind, yes, it's working. Then I'll say, do you see the item there? And they say, yes. I said, do you see the red words where it says out of stock? And they say, yes. So it typically means that we don't have it on the shelf, it's out of stock. But there's times that because of the nature, it's always the same product. I could sell a boatload of them, but you can't find them. The sourcing of that product is just about gone.
Right.
Because they no longer make it, and to obtain it, you've got to find it in either an overstock that grandpa died,
Absolutely.
left a barn full of them,
Yeah.
or
And
decommissioned.
and you got to understand that his products are components.
Yep.
So, so there are times where it is near impossible to find something, but there are also other times where there may be only limited places that manufacture. Years ago, one of the things that we used to do, I used to buy them all the time, was balloons, right? Anytime we would go somewhere, we'd have the big punch balloons. Remember the old school big punch balloons? We got a crap ton of those still. So we could go to a local event. I could give out 10,000 of those things. I mean, like that. People were all about it. The adults were more about it than the kids, honestly. Yeah. I remember these when I was a kid. You'd see adults walking around. You know. Do you know there's only 6 companies globally that can make those kind of balloons? 6.
I did not know that.
Yeah. 5 of them are in China.
That's not surprising.
I was about to say, that
Yep.
sounds about far.
One of them is in the United States. The one in the United States, sadly, we did not make a purchase from the company in the United States because they could not do what we wanted specifically with the balloons, right? So with the imprinting and the sizing, the specific sizing and so on and so forth, they could not do that. So we had to go to one of the manufacturers in China to be able to do that, right? And so, it's unfortunate, but instead of being able to order 500 of these puppies at a time or 1,000 of these puppies at a time, my minimum order is 20,000. I have to order 20,000 of them at a whack in order to be able to get it. Yeah.
And when do you have a couple left over?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, though, is ordering them from there, 20,000, even with freight from China, cost me less than 1,000 that I bought in the United States. Cost me less. No. Some things you just can't get other places, So you got to be careful with that. So we have to look at currently available to promote. Now, once we get this information, right? Once we get this information, now we can start going through this stuff and looking at our different sheets to be able to say what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, right? Some things may make sense to promote. Some things may not make sense to promote, right? Some things may be easy to promote. Some things are going to be very, very difficult for us to promote. So it's a matter of going through those things and then starting to match it up with our calendar, right? What did we say on our calendar that these were good sales months, these were bad sales months? And it's entirely possible we may have to change our calendar due to this, right? You may have a product that historically you've done really, really good sales with in a given month. But when I start looking at this thing, wait a minute, you've done really, really good sales with it. I've actually had a client a couple of years ago that I did this similar process with. So they had 1 month out of the year, they constantly had really, really, really good sales of a particular product, right? The problem was that between the fulfillment of that particular product, the margins of that particular product, and everything else surrounding it, they were actually losing. Even though they were generating a lot of money coming in, they were actually losing money every month, every year at that month. Interesting, because there were a lot of circumstances that kind of lined up. So just because you sell a lot of something doesn't mean you're making a lot of money, right? So we had to look at, making a recommended change of, let's offer this thing as an add-on, but our active promotion would be something else that we know sales of it will generate actual revenue, right? It's just those value-added thought processes that you don't normally get if you're just saying, hey, I sell widgets, I need you to do some marketing for widgets. Okay, all right. So we're going a lot more in detail with this kind of stuff. Does this make sense?
It does.
Makes sense.
Questions?